Emily Johnson, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher with warm hazel eyes and wavy auburn hair, stood in the kitchen of her modest suburban home in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She nervously fiddled with the positive pregnancy test in her hands, her heart racing with excitement and a touch of anxiety. Her husband, Ryan, a 30-year-old software engineer with a tall, athletic build and sandy blonde hair, walked through the front door, shaking off the early spring chill. "Ryan, you're home early," Emily called out, her voice trembling slightly. Ryan hung up his coat and entered the kitchen, immediately noticing Emily's flushed cheeks and bright eyes. "Hey, babe, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." Emily took a deep breath and held out the pregnancy test. "We're pregnant." Ryan's blue eyes widened in shock, then lit up with joy. He swept Emily into his arms, spinning her around the kitchen. "Oh my God, Em, this is amazing." As the weeks passed, Emily and Ryan threw themselves into preparing for their new addition. They transformed their spare room into a nursery, painting the walls a soft yellow and assembling a white crib. During a routine ultrasound at 12 weeks, the technician furrowed her brow, studying the screen intently. "Is everything okay?" Emily asked, squeezing Ryan's hand. The technician smiled reassuringly. "Everything looks healthy, but I'm seeing multiple heartbeats. Congratulations, you're having triplets." Emily and Ryan exchanged stunned looks. "Triplets?" Ryan repeated, his voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. As they left the clinic, reality began to sink in. "3 babies," Emily murmured, her hand resting on her slightly swollen belly. "Can we handle this?" Ryan wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "We can handle anything together, Em. It'll be challenging, but think of all the love we'll have in our family." Over the next few months, their lives became a whirlwind of preparations. They upgraded to a minivan, stocked up on diapers, and attended parenting classes for multiples. Their friends and family rallied around them, offering support and throwing a lavish baby shower. As Emily's due date approached, the couple spent quiet evenings together, imagining their future as a family of 5. Little did they know, their world was about to be turned upside down in ways they could never have anticipated. On a sweltering July afternoon, Emily was rushed to the University of Minnesota Medical Center, her contractions coming fast and strong. Ryan, his face a mixture of excitement and nervousness, held her hand as they were ushered into the delivery room. "You've got this, Em," he whispered, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth. Hours passed in a blur of pain and anticipation. Finally, the first cry pierced the air. "It's a boy," the doctor announced. Emily smiled weakly, exhausted but overjoyed. However, as the nurse placed the newborn on her chest, both she and Ryan froze in shock. The baby's skin was a rich, dark brown, a stark contrast to their own fair complexions. Before they could process this, the second and third babies arrived in quick succession. Both girls, and both with the same dark skin tone. The delivery room fell into an uncomfortable silence. Ryan's face had drained of color, his eyes darting between the babies and Emily. There must be some mistake," he stammered, his voice barely audible. The doctor, maintaining his professional composure, spoke gently. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, your triplets appear to be perfectly healthy. However, I understand this may be unexpected. Would you like me to arrange for a specialist to speak with you?" Emily, still in a daze, nodded mutely. She looked at Ryan, reaching for his hand, but he had taken a step back, his expression hardening. "Ryan," she whispered, her voice cracking. He shook his head, unable to meet her eyes. I need some air," he muttered, before turning and striding out of the room. The following hours were a whirlwind of tests and consultations. Nurses and doctors spoke in hushed tones, stealing glances at Emily and the babies. Emily, exhausted and emotional, cradled her newborns, marveling at their tiny features while grappling with confusion and fear. Ryan returned, his face a mask of anger and hurt. "How could you do this to me, Emily?" he hissed, keeping his distance from the hospital bed. "Ryan, please," Emily pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "I don't understand what's happening, but I swear I've never been with anyone else. These are our babies." But Ryan, consumed by disbelief and betrayal, couldn't hear her words. As night fell, he left the hospital, leaving Emily alone with their unexpected miracle and a future suddenly filled with uncertainty. The days following the triplets' birth were a blur of sleepless nights and tense silence for Emily. She remained in the hospital, caring for her newborns, whom she named Aiden, Zoe, and Chloe, while desperately trying to reach Ryan. Her calls went straight to voicemail, her texts unanswered. On the third day, as Emily was preparing to be discharged, Ryan finally appeared. His face was haggard, eyes bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Ryan," Emily breathed, relief washing over her. "I've been so worried. Please, can we talk about this?" Ryan's gaze swept over the babies and their bassinets, his expression unreadable. "There's nothing to talk about, Emily. I know what I see. But you don't understand," Emily pleaded, her voice trembling. "The doctors say there could be a genetic explanation. We need to do more tests." "Tests?" Ryan scoffed, his voice rising. "I don't need tests to tell me what's obvious. You cheated on me, Emily, with a black man. And now you expect me to raise his children?" Emily flinched at his words, tears welling in her eyes. "How can you say that? I've never been unfaithful to you. I love you, Ryan. These are our babies." Ryan shook his head, his jaw clenched. "I can't do this. I won't raise another man's children and pretend everything's okay. I've already spoken to a lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon." With that, he turned and walked out of the room, ignoring Emily's desperate calls. Nurse Sandra, who had been caring for Emily and the triplets, rushed in, alerted by the commotion. She found Emily sobbing uncontrollably, the babies starting to cry in response to their mother's distress. "Oh, honey," Sandra murmured, wrapping her arms around Emily. "I'm so sorry." As reality set in, Emily's world crumbled around her. The future she had imagined, a happy family of 5, evaporated in an instant. She was now a single mother to 3 newborns, facing not only the daunting task of raising them alone, but also the judgment and speculation of others. That night, as Emily cradled her sleeping babies, she made a silent vow. No matter what challenges lay ahead, she would love and protect these children with every fiber of her being. They were hers, regardless of what anyone else believed, and she would fight for them with all her strength. The first few months after bringing the triplets home were a whirlwind of sleepless nights and exhausting days for Emily. The small 2-bedroom apartment she once shared with Ryan now felt cramped with 3 cribs and endless baby supplies. The walls, once filled with happy photos of the couple, now stood bare, a stark reminder of her new reality. Emily's first venture out with the babies came when they were 3 months old. She nervously pushed the triple stroller into the local park, hoping for a brief respite from the confines of her apartment. As she settled on a bench, she felt the weight of stares from other park-goers. An older woman approached, her curiosity evident. "What beautiful babies," she cooed, before her expression shifted to confusion. "Are you their nanny?" Emily's cheeks flushed. "No, I'm their mother," she replied softly. The woman's eyebrows shot up. "Oh, I see," she stammered, quickly retreating. Similar encounters became a regular occurrence. At the grocery store, the pediatrician's office, even walking down the street, Emily faced questioning looks and intrusive comments. One day, while struggling to load groceries into her car with the triplets, a well-meaning stranger approached. "Let me help you with that," he offered, then hesitated. "If you don't mind me asking, where's their father? Shouldn't he be helping?" Emily's throat tightened. "Their father isn't in the picture," she managed to say. The man's expression changed, a mix of judgment and pity. "Ah, I see. Well, good luck to you," he said, quickly walking away. At night, after finally getting the babies to sleep, Emily often found herself overwhelmed by loneliness. She'd scroll through her phone, seeing updates from friends living their normal lives, going out, enjoying their relationships. Her own social circle had dwindled, many friends uncomfortable with her situation or unsure how to support her. One evening, feeling particularly low, Emily called her best friend, Lisa. "Hey, Em, how are you holding up?" Lisa asked, her voice tinged with concern. "I'm managing," Emily replied, her voice cracking. It's just so hard, Lisa. The looks, the questions. I feel so alone. Oh, sweetie, Lisa sighed. I can't imagine how tough this is. But you're so strong, Em. Those babies are lucky to have you. As she hung up, Emily wiped away her tears and peeked in on her sleeping children. Despite the challenges, the sight of their peaceful faces filled her with a fierce love. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but for them, she would face whatever came her way. As the triplets approached their first birthday, Emily's determination to uncover the truth about their unique appearance grew stronger. She had spent countless nights researching online, trying to find any explanation that could account for her fair-skinned, blonde husband fathering 3 black children. One afternoon, while the babies napped, Emily scheduled an appointment with Dr. Samantha Chun, a respected geneticist at the University of Minnesota. The day of the appointment arrived, and Emily nervously entered Dr. Chen's office, pushing the triplet stroller. Dr. Chen, a petite woman with kind eyes, greeted Emily warmly. Mrs. Johnson, it's nice to meet you. And these must be Aiden, Zoe, and Chloe. Emily nodded, her voice shaky. Yes, doctor. I hope you can help us understand what's happening. Dr. Chen listened intently as Emily recounted her story, occasionally jotting notes. When Emily finished, the doctor leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. Mrs. Johnson, based on what you've told me, I'd like to explore the possibility of a rare genetic condition called chimerism, Dr. Chen explained. Emily's brow furrowed. Chimerism? What's that? It's a condition where an individual carries 2 sets of DNA, Dr. Chen elaborated. In rare cases, this can result in a person carrying genetic material that doesn't match their apparent racial background. Emily's heart raced. So, you're saying Ryan could be the father? Dr. Chen nodded cautiously. It's a possibility. We'd need to conduct genetic testing to confirm. Would you be willing to bring in samples from Ryan? Emily's face fell. He left us. I don't think he'd agree to testing. Dr. Chen's expression softened. I understand. We can still proceed with testing you and the children. It won't give us a complete picture, but it might provide some answers. Over the next few weeks, Emily and the triplets underwent a series of genetic tests. The waiting was agonizing, but Emily clung to the hope of finally having an explanation. When the results came in, Dr. Chan called Emily immediately. Mrs. Johnson, I have some interesting news. While we can't confirm without testing Ryan, the genetic markers we've found strongly suggest the possibility of chimerism. Tears of relief streamed down Emily's face. So it's possible? Ryan could really be their father? Based on these results, it's not just possible, it's likely, Dr. Chin affirmed. As Emily left the office, a mix of emotions washed over her. She finally had a potential explanation, a vindication of her faithfulness. But with Ryan still out of reach, she wondered if this newfound knowledge would ever bring her family back together. Armed with the genetic test results and Dr. Chin's explanation of chimerism, Emily felt a renewed sense of hope. She decided it was time to reach out to Ryan, believing that the scientific evidence might change his mind. It took days of gathering courage, but finally, Emily dialed Ryan's number. To her surprise, he answered on the 3rd ring. Emily? His voice was guarded, wary. Ryan, please don't hang up, Emily pleaded. I have important news about the triplets. Can we meet? After a long pause, Ryan agreed to meet at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop on the outskirts of town. The next day, Emily arrived early, her heart pounding as she clutched a folder containing the test results. When Ryan walked in, she was struck by how tired and worn he looked. Hi, she said softly as he sat down across from her. Ryan nodded curtly. What's this about, Emily? Taking a deep breath, Emily launched into an explanation of chimerism and the genetic tests. She pushed the folder towards him. These results suggest you could be their father, Ryan. It's a rare condition, but it explains everything. Ryan leafed through the papers, his expression unreadable. Emily, I don't know what to say. This is a lot to take in. I know it is, Emily said gently. But Ryan, these are our children. They need their father. We could do more tests, confirm it beyond any doubt. Ryan's jaw clenched. Even if this is true, Emily, it doesn't change the fact that I walked away, that I didn't believe you. How can we come back from that? Emily reached across the table, but Ryan pulled his hand away. We can work through this, Ryan. For the kids. They're growing so fast, and they're beautiful and smart. They should know their father. Ryan stood up abruptly. I need time to process this, Emily. I can't just jump back into your lives like nothing happened, but will you consider it? Emily asked, hope evident in her voice. Will you at least meet them? Ryan paused at the door, conflict clear on his face. I'll think about it. That's all I can promise right now. As Ryan left, Emily sat back, emotionally drained. It wasn't the reconciliation she had hoped for, but it was a start. A tiny spark of hope flickered in her heart, but she knew the road ahead would be long and uncertain. Years passed, and Emily found herself navigating the challenges of single parenthood with growing confidence. The triplets, Aiden, Zoe, and Chloe, were now vibrant 5-year-olds, each with their own distinct personality. One sunny Saturday morning, Emily sat on a park bench, watching her children play. Aiden, always the adventurous one, was scaling the jungle gym, his curly hair bouncing with each movement. Zoe, the artist of the family, was drawing intricate patterns in the sandbox, while Chloe, the bookworm, sat nearby, engrossed in a picture book. A young mother pushing a stroller approached Emily. Your children are beautiful, she said warmly. You must have your hands full. Emily smiled, used to these interactions now. Thank you. Yes, it's a challenge, but they're worth every moment. As the woman walked away, Chloe ran up to Emily, her big brown eyes wide with curiosity. Mommy, why do people always look surprised when they see us together? Emily's heart clenched. She had been preparing for this conversation, knowing it was inevitable. Well, sweetheart, it's because Mommy's skin looks different from yours. Some people don't understand that families can look different from each other. Chloe furrowed her brow. But why does it matter? It shouldn't matter, honey, Emily said, pulling her daughter close. What matters is that we love each other. Later that evening, as Emily tucked the triplets into bed, Aiden asked the question she had been dreading. Mommy, why don't we have a daddy like other kids? Emily sat on the edge of the bed, gathering her thoughts. You do have a daddy, sweetie. He couldn't be with us right now, but that doesn't mean he doesn't love you. Will we ever meet him? Zoe chimed in. I hope so, one day, Emily replied, her voice wavering slightly. But for now, we have each other, and that's what's important. As she turned off the lights and closed the bedroom door, Emily leaned against the wall, taking a deep breath. These conversations were never easy, but they were necessary. She was determined to raise her children with a strong sense of identity and self-worth, regardless of the challenges they faced. In the quiet of the evening, Emily reflected on how far she'd come. From the overwhelmed new mother she once was, she had grown into a strong, resilient woman. She had built a support network of friends and fellow single parents, advanced in her teaching career, and most importantly, created a loving home for her children. While the absence of Ryan still ached, Emily knew she and her children could face whatever life threw their way, together. 7 years had passed since Ryan last saw Emily and the triplets. He had moved to Seattle, throwing himself into his work as a software engineer, trying to outrun the guilt and doubt that plagued him. His apartment was sparsely furnished, a testament to the emptiness he felt inside. One rainy evening, Ryan sat on his couch, absently flipping through TV channels. He paused on a science documentary, his attention caught by the word chimerism. In rare cases, the narrator explained, chimerism can result in a person carrying genetic material that doesn't match their apparent racial background. This can lead to situations where parents may have children who look drastically different from them. Ryan's remote clattered to the floor. He stared at the screen, his mind racing back to that day in the hospital, to Emily's pleas and the test results she had tried to show him years ago. Oh God, he whispered, his voice breaking. What have I done? The next morning, Ryan called in sick to work and began a frantic online search. He found articles about chimerism and cases similar to his. With each piece of information, the weight of his mistake grew heavier. Unable to contain his emotions, he called his sister, Sarah. Ryan, is everything okay? Sarah answered, concern in her voice. Sarah, I think I made a terrible mistake, Ryan choked out. What are you talking about? Ryan poured out the whole story. The triplets' birth, his disbelief, the abandonment, and now his realization. Oh, Ryan, Sarah sighed. Those babies, they were yours all along? I think so, Ryan replied, his voice hollow. I left them, Sarah. I left Emily alone to raise 3 children. How could I have been so stupid? You need to make this right, Ryan, Sarah said firmly. You need to find Emily and those kids. But how? Ryan asked, desperation creeping into his voice. It's been 7 years. She probably hates me. The kids, they don't even know me. It won't be easy, Sarah admitted, but you have to try. For those children and for yourself. As Ryan hung up the phone, he was overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. Regret for the years lost, fear of rejection, but also a glimmer of hope. He knew what he had to do. It was time to face his past and try to make amends, no matter how difficult it might be. After weeks of searching and gathering courage, Ryan finally stood outside Emily's modest suburban home in Minneapolis. His heart raced as he approached the front door, a bouquet of flowers clutched tightly in his trembling hand. Taking a deep breath, he rang the doorbell. Moments later, the door opened, and there stood Emily. Her hair was shorter now, and there were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before, but she was still as beautiful as he remembered. Emily's eyes widened in shock. Ryan, she whispered, her voice a mix of disbelief and caution. Hi, Emily, Ryan said softly. I know I have no right to be here, but please, can we talk? Emily hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. Come in, she said, stepping aside. As Ryan entered the living room, he was struck by the sight of children's toys and family photos adorning the walls. His eyes lingered on a recent picture of the triplets, now 8 years old, their smiling faces a painful reminder of what he had missed. They're beautiful, Emily, he said, his voice cracking with emotion. Emily crossed her arms, her posture guarded. Why are you here, Ryan? Ryan turned to face her, his eyes brimming with tears. I was wrong, Emily. So terribly wrong. I recently learned about chimerism, and I realized what a horrible mistake I made. I'm here to apologize and to ask, to beg for your forgiveness. Emily's expression softened slightly, but she remained cautious. It's been 7 years, Ryan. 7 years of struggling alone, of explaining to our children why they don't have a father. I know, Ryan said, hanging his head in shame. I can never make up for that lost time, but I want to try. I want to be part of their lives, if you'll let me. Just then, the sound of children's laughter drifted in from the backyard. Emily glanced towards the sound, then back at Ryan. They're out there now, she said quietly. Do you want to meet them? Ryan's heart leapt. More than anything, he whispered. As Emily led him to the back door, she paused. Ryan, this won't be easy. They don't know you. It will take time. Ryan nodded solemnly. I understand. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes, Emily. I want to make this right. With that, Emily opened the door, and Ryan stepped out to face the children he had abandoned, ready to begin the long journey of healing and redemption. Over the next few months, Ryan became a constant presence in the lives of Emily and the triplets. It was a challenging process, filled with awkward moments, difficult conversations, and emotional breakthroughs. One sunny afternoon, Ryan sat on the living room floor with the children, helping them with a puzzle. Aiden, the most outgoing of the 3, looked up at him curiously. So, are you really our dad? He asked bluntly. Ryan glanced at Emily, who nodded encouragingly from the kitchen doorway. Yes, Aiden, I am, he replied softly. And I'm very sorry I haven't been here for you all this time. Zoe, always the peacemaker, patted Ryan's hand. It's okay. Mom says everyone makes mistakes sometimes. Chloe, the quietest of the trio, spoke up. Will you stay this time? Ryan's heart clenched. Yes, Chloe. If you all want me to, I promise I'll stay. As the weeks turned into months, the family slowly began to heal. Ryan attended school plays, helped with homework, and was there for skin knees and bedtime stories. He and Emily attended counseling, working through their past hurts and building a new foundation of trust. One evening, As they sat on the porch watching the kids play in the yard, Emily turned to Ryan. "You know, it's still hard for me sometimes," she admitted. "Trusting you, I mean." Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "I know, Em, and I don't blame you. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you and the kids if I have to." Emily reached out and took his hand. "But I'm glad you're here now. They need you. We all do." As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the yard, Ryan watched his children laughing and playing. He felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over him. He knew there would still be challenges ahead, questions to answer, and trust to rebuild. But looking at his family, the family he had almost lost forever, he knew that every effort was worth it. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in years, they both felt a sense of completeness. Their family might not look like others, and their journey had been far from conventional, but they were together. And in that moment, surrounded by love and the promise of a shared future, they knew they could face anything as long as they faced it together. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and watch this next story. It's super emotional.